So the subject I wanted to talk about for the discussion is the example that was brought up in the book that um, the one laptop per child that Nicholas Negrotpone was campaigning, and kind of how that went about, especially after reading more about throughout the chapter about globalization and just the disparities and changes between. Um, yes, the idea of it and the fact that they would be quote unquote affordable for people in those countries is great and all, um, but they were really only looking at the whole economic divide part of the digital divide. Um, yes, they were looking into software that was easier for children to learn, um, which was that was great as well. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that was the whole source of the issue. And I mean, the big problem also was that they had a lot of competition come into play as well that was creating the same product, and it wasn't strictly designed for a child. So they came up with the idea and the product, and then when trying to emerge in the market, they kind of sectioned themselves off and really focused more on trying to, you know, create something that necessarily wasn't an issue, um, especially in bringing this into, the global market. Their, campaign was spearheading providing these laptops to children in third world countries when necessarily that's not what they really need, nor would that be something that the product wouldn't really be needed in the market. So they weren't really looking at this from an actual like a business standpoint, because consumers in those markets are more worried about proper education, proper schools. Like, that'd be great if you can provide those laptops and everything, but the bigger issue was they were looking for more of a cosmetic solution instead of actually going about it in a way that would make sense. Providing those laptops to third world countries are great, um, but if they focused more on those intermediate countries, or even within America itself, or first world countries, kind of like that, I think they'd have more success because those necessities are, food, water, shelter already met in these countries for the most part. When it comes to, the disparity between those who can utilize technology and those who cannot. But really, there are other examples as well. Making technology affordable isn't really, the mindset of a third world country. It's more of being able to take care of vital necessities instead of that. So I think the big issue with that is they were trying, especially with technology, since so many people, are able to create similar to near the same product within, a matter of months after coming out with the idea. I think the biggest thing is just with that, making sure that you understand kind of where your stance is and kind of what actually needs to be done in terms of providing these products and entering the global market, because they did a great job of campaigning it to people, but I mean, till today, like it's not necessarily a success, and it's not going to be, because that's not what is needed in those areas of the world. And that's just the matter of fact when it comes to business, is knowing your demographic, and even internationally, overcoming those borders, barriers, and finding out their actual needs, um, in order to offer them a product that they would actually use in their everyday lives. So that's kind of like my take on the whole subject of that. And I'll go ahead and link the article that I was reading as well, aside from what they said in the book. so that way you can kind of also get more of a glimpse into the specifics of the computer in general and kind of the backlash and whatnot that came up after the idea was presented.